All right.
Hey.
Chris Cote.
Yes, sir.
Dude,
Good to
it's
see you
so
again,
good
brother.
seeing you.
I see you on the internet. I see you on
Yes, me too.
Instagram. I see you all over the world, and it's
Whoa.
nice to see you in person again
Yes.
after a couple years. Really,
It has been a couple years.
That's
Isn't that
right.
weird? Is that crazy? Yeah, we worked together for about 8 years. I've always admired you. You've been a good friend of mine. You a surfer. You've been surfing since 12 years old. Skateboarder. You've wrote for magazines. You're done a bunch of stuff on your own. You have a band, and you're obviously the WSL
trying.
commentator.
I'm trying to do it all.
Yeah, and I mean, like I was saying a little bit earlier, I love talking to people that like figured out a way to do stuff that they love for their life.
Yeah.
It's so hard to like find what you love. I think for you,
yeah.
probably not so much because you found that at a very early age.
I think I found a lot of things I loved, which can become its own problem, right?
Mhm.
I've always kind of thought of myself as like a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I think it was kind of hard for me early on because I loved, skating, surfing, music, all these things. So it made it hard to focus on one thing and be really good at that one thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't change it now, obviously, but I think growing up, a lot of times I guess this was kind of pre-ADD or something, but a lot of times that I would kind of wish that I had the passion just for one main thing.
Mhm.
But again, now that we're here,
Yeah.
I'm happy that I did a little bit of everything.
Yeah, but those awesome. But those things kind of work itself out because it's almost like what you found is like it's art, right? It's like surfing, skating, music, and they're all kind of related somehow. There's people like myself, like I like sports, I like marketing. It's like all different things that
Yeah.
don't really relate to each other. At least you always stayed in this realm.
Yeah, it is. I always kind of think of it as it's an artist's life, because
Yes.
I'm not a millionaire. I'm not, uh, thriving in certain ways, but I think culturally and for me spiritually, I'm absolutely exactly where I want to be.
Yeah.
Creating, and I see a lot of these different avenues. Everything from being in a band, writing music, to being a commentator. They're very similar art forms to me.
Mhm.
And I don't want to sound, pompous or snobby or whatever, but I really try to make the surf commentary, the skate commentary, an artistic kind of representation of what I'm into.
Yes.
Just like I would, painting a picture, writing a song,
Mhm.
writing an article for a magazine. They're
Yeah.
all related in that way of, I'm delivering a message that the client or the situation dictates,
Right.
but I'm also putting my spin on it or putting part
Yeah.
of myself into it every time.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing because they all kind of feed each other.
Yeah, for sure.
And surfing to me, I think is like probably the most artful sport there is,
Definitely.
and that's probably what holds it back from growing so much sometimes.
Yeah.
because it's such an art. You
Yeah,
know,
and
it's-
I put it, I mean, all the way down to word choices, right? And of course I would never judge another announcer or whatever, but I'm hesitant to call surfboards equipment because
Yeah.
I see it as such an art form, and I see the surfboard itself as not only a piece of art that was, handmade
Mhm.
by many different craftspeople throughout the process of getting it built, but also it becomes way for the person to make their art.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
why it's kind of hard. And again, I would
Yeah,
never,
yeah.
I don't judge other people's words. For me personally, the word equipment is, that's a baseball bat, a golf club,
Mhm.
which again, those are art forms too. But for me,
Yeah.
surfing is such an art form that I like to just keep it as a surfboard or, basically a working piece of art.
Yeah, it's like the brush of
Yeah.
a painter. It
I mean,
really
it's
is.
it's a sculpture, and
Yeah.
it's wild that we can take these sculptures and make them do what we want to do in the water. It's almost unbelievable when you kind of peel it all
Mhm.
back and you're going, if you saw a surfboard and you had no idea, and it was just a blank whiteboard and you saw it in a gallery and you didn't know anything about surfing, you would go, oh, that's a pretty interesting looking sculpture.
Yeah.
But the fact that we take those out there and then actually ride them and use them,
Yeah.
there's so much that goes into it that to me, I just see it as, it is a paintbrush. It is a
Right.
guitar. It is something that these surfer artists use.
Yeah.
And, now I'm delving into like some corny area, but it's their, it's their way to show their art.
Yeah.
And
No, I completely agree.
yeah,
That's why I think it's the closest thing to art. I mean, you go to people's house, some people have never surfed and they have a surfboard
yeah,
on their wall as like decoration.
yeah. Surfboard, a
You-
wave poster.
Yeah. You will never see, you will never go to somebody's house and there's like soccer cleats
Yeah.
hung. And
Unless
you're
it's
like,
a
do you play
collectible."
soccer? And they're like, no, I never played soccer in my life. You
Yeah,
know?
they're like, I just love the way those cleats look.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
never gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's why I think surfing is the closest thing to art, which is the thing that makes it difficult to make it bigger as a business.
Yeah,
Because there's so many conflicts there.
totally.
Because you have to go to the people that are so passionate about the art, and then you have to deal with the people that are passionate about making it a business,
yeah,
and there's a conflict.
yeah,
And then you have to start making it as competitive where it's not really black and white. There's no goals, or anything like that.
right.
So that's why to me, it's always been, I understand why it's such a difficult thing to make it like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's performance art, which historically you can judge performance art all the way
Mhm.
from gymnastics and the Olympics to, street league skateboarding, Vans Park Series, whatever the performance art is, they have figured out ways to judge them, to score them. And I think that surfing has so many different avenues. It is a
Yeah.
lot like the art world, right? You have this abstract
yeah.
world. You have the classic Renaissance style,
Mhm.
modern art, all these things where if you take all the types of art you could find in a gallery, you could apply a surfing
Right.
style or, board to these art forms.
Yep.
So it makes, it really is limitless
Mhm.
to the ways that you can surf or enjoy watching surfing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what makes it so fun. And I think that we're probably in the best place ever right now, just in terms of availability to see, the best competitive surfers in the world
Yeah.
shown in all of their power. To me, just expertly portrayed with what they do.
Right.
And the ability, like WSL is a great example of, so they show every angle, they show the crowd, they show the nuances of the sport, and they're able to weave in the things that they need to do to make money, advertisements
Yes,
and
of
stuff
course.
like that.
Yeah.
And it's a great show. And if you don't like that show, you can go to the beach and watch somebody
surf.
longboard,
Yeah.
by themselves. And that's a different art form.
Yeah.
So I think just surfing in general is at its best place right now.
Yeah.
I think it's just getting better,
Right.
and of course I'm known as Mr. Positive, but I truly believe it.
Yeah.
Like I love all forms of surfing.
Yeah. I mean, one thing, yes, you are very positive. I've always loved it. Even when like Beach Grid talked shit, you've always been so positive. It's a privilege.
They're
you know?
talking about me.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of like the WSL broadcast to me is like the best.
Yeah.
Like that is one item there, and I've worked there, obviously,
Yeah.
but the team itself, like Jed, Rob, those guys, they are so spot on. They are so
Yeah.
good.
And I think seeing it from the inside, you really get an appreciation for how hard that is.
Yes, it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's
And
so hard.
the fan,
and with your
the-
guys' job too is another thing. That's so hard.
Oh yeah, it's hard. It's fun. It's just a really cool challenge. And I think the fans appreciate it when they appreciate it. I think
Yeah.
they would appreciate it more if they saw, Big J laying 5 miles of cable to get to
Yes.
the reef, all the
Yeah.
things that go into when you're at home, you're sitting in your toilet trying to watch the broadcast and you're like,
Why
it
is this shit-
glitched.
Yeah. And we're in the
know?
middle of Tahiti.
Yeah.
Where one time I think we were there, we were like had to rebuild the satellite
Yeah.
because it broke during the
Something
rain.
blew up and,
Yeah.
there's a lightning strike on a camera or whatever. And somebody at home's like, oh, well, this didn't work for 5 seconds.
Yeah,
I'm mad.
fuck, WSL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's, I think that there's way more appreciation
Mm-hmm.
for the broadcast and for, being able to watch live surfing,
Yeah.
whether it's WSL, ISA, a longboard event down in Mexico,
Yes.
just
Yeah.
like, it's cool to see all the levels
Mhm.
of, of broadcast of
Yeah.
the art of surfing.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that the something that WSL has been doing really, really well is the broadcast.
100%.
Broadcast is so you guys to the behind the scenes to camera angles to having your strata or kaipo in the water
Yeah.
or like all that stuff is
Well, you would think that for me specifically, I mean, there's only about 20 something people that do what I do, that do what we do
Yeah.
as announcers, whatever. I'll go to an event and work 9, 10, 12 hours a day, talking the whole time for 10 days straight or whatever it is.
yeah.
And then 2 days later, I'm home and there's an event on and I'm watching.
Right. That's crazy.
I don't
Yeah.
need a break from it. I
Yeah.
love it. I like it that much.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love watching. I haven't been watching lately just because
Bro, this year's going off.
this year's going off.
Yes.
That the Gold Coast one was cool.
Oh my gosh.
Just seeing Gold Coast back on.
Yeah, that's one of the best events I've seen. I think back-to-back events. Bell's had its charm and some of the best surfing I've seen of the year, and then you go to the Gold Coast, and it just makes you feel like surfing is in a great place.
Yeah, that
beyond
yeah.
tariffs and all that stuff, all the negative stuff around. You watch that, and all those people on the beach. There's concerts afterward. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, this is another heyday of surfing.
Yeah, having Gold Coast back to me felt like
Totally
oh,
worked.
Whoa, that's
Yes.
so good.
Yes.
And I'm excited how the schedule is going to be next year too. So that's
Yes. Well, surfers, we talk about this a lot on our podcast, the Monday Mass.
cool. Monday Mass,
Plug.
yes, the Monday Mass podcast.
Just how I think historically surfers have always been pretty stubborn
Mhm.
and sentimental.
Yes,
We love it. We like the way things were.
right.
And I think that for me personally, I liked the kind of the test, the idea of the cut and all those things, and I've enjoyed the whole thing. I really like the final 5 day,
Mhm.
but I think now that we have things kind of back to where everyone's comfortable,
Right.
it's never easy to say in surfing
Yeah.
that everyone's stoked.
No, that's never going to
Everyone's comfortable,
Yeah.
but it feels like when that announcement came out,
People were stuck.
everyone's stoked.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, that was one thing for me to adapt because when I went into the WSL, started working there, it's just how sensitive people are
yeah,
and how careful people are with the sensitiveness.
yeah.
I think like WSL sometimes is too careful on like hurting people's feeling, like surfers' feeling, but surfers' feelings are going to get hurt
Yeah.
because they are so
Any athlete,
yeah,
they put everything into this one thing,
yeah.
and if it doesn't go their way,
Because I
they
came
can-
from the UFC, Dana never cared. He
yeah,
was like, it's this way.
different
And
animal,
it's happening,
right?
and it's like so going to WSL is like even being careful of like what people with like I'm not even talking about surfers or professional surfers. I'm talking about like
Yeah,
the amateur surfers that watch. They're like, oh, they might not like this. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's kind of cool that you think that way, but it's also hard for business because you also have to deal with everything that we know is hard to promote surfing.
for sure.
Like
and
how do you, yeah.
I'm just stoked to be a part of it, and it's funny because I come on for the event, and then I'm just here in my office afterwards,
Yeah,
and
it's
I'm
the
watching the
best.
events just like everyone else, and then I see the press release, and I'm like, I just get excited like everyone else, and then
Yeah.
people ask me because I'm one of the commentators, oh, dude, like when did you hear about this? When did you know? Or
was like,
what's going
same
on
time
behind
as
the
you.
scenes? I'm like, bro, like I'm an expert in what I do.
Yeah.
Like, thankfully, I'm not in a boardroom like making big decisions like
That's
that
the best.
because that is a thankless job for
Yeah.
sure. Like
yeah.
there are a lot of thankless jobs in surfing and other sports, like being a judge,
Right.
doing the behind the scenes stuff. You never see a surfer win a contest and say, "Hey, I want to thank the WSL accountants
Right.
for making sure that it's
yeah,
like."
yeah.
And those are the jobs that without those people,
Mhm.
it goes all the way back to like a surfboard being made, right?
Yeah.
The sanders, the people that put the fins on, the people that are, laying up the glass, all these things.
Right.
There's
right.
a lot of like the shaper is obviously the most thanked person.
Yes.
And I think sometimes you'll hear like, hey, the factory and the shapers, I think, are the ones that definitely go, look, I'm great, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can't be great without this guy, this girl, this, this crew behind me that's getting the surfboard in your hands.
Yeah.
And I think that's same with a big company like WSL or like UFC.
There's so many people behind the scenes that really work hard to
totally
put that up.
Yeah.
I mean, we get there, it's like getting built is still everything.
Yeah.
And then they built it within a couple of days. It's like wild.
Totally.
Especially in Tahiti, they have to run that cable within like inside the reefs, underneath the water, all the way to the tower in the middle.
Yeah.
And make sure everything is untouched and not, damaged or anything.
That's documentary worthy. I used to be a roadie for a pretty big band. And so I would see the build up every day, load in, build up, tear down, load out.
Right.
And it's always been incredible to me.
It's incredible.
And being able to see that, very early on, and now every event I go to, surf, skate, snow, whatever, concert, I'm like, wow, this is another impressive feat for them to be able to pull this off. It's nuts. Natural selection was a great example in
natural
snowboarding.
Selection doing great.
Right.
It's awesome.
I'm watching online and I'm going, okay, this is cool. And then I'm talking to somebody who's behind the scenes or one of the announcers, and they're going, oh, bro, this place is like
in the middle,
100 miles away from a town, or whatever it was, and it's freezing. And the fact that you can do a live event from a place like that, it just still blows my mind.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's wild. Like they go in the middle of nowhere.
Yes,
it's crazy.
The unsung heroes of what we see and do.
Yeah, and they do it like cinematographic. They do it very well.
Yeah,
it's cool. I like what they're doing, and they started doing the surf competition now.
Yeah.
So that was
I saw
cool.
that too. I mean, there's another one there. Who even knows where they were?
Yeah,
but it worked.
It worked. It was awesome. Yeah, it's hard. I think surfing it's so hard to promote because of so many things.
Yeah,
because it's an art. Because it's unpredictable. Because it's not black and white.
Yeah,
and there's all these
subjective
stuff.
Yeah,
there's one thing that I wish changed overall in surfing is like transparency on judging.
Right.
Like, because I've got into this before and heated arguments and all that stuff, but doesn't matter what the judging says, you have to trust that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And obviously they know way more than 99% of the people. And my thing is like, I don't want to argue with their score. I just want to understand it deeply.
Right.
Or even more than I can. Like, so to me, a simple thing would be put a camera in there.
Yeah.
And broadcast it time to time.
Just with a mic, a camera, and a mic.
Yeah, mic them up and just have that banter between them.
Yeah.
And the head judge, and just to see how that goes.
Yeah.
Because then you're gonna start learning more where the head was, and then you're gonna learn what counts more and what doesn't. What what the variables are. I just wish there was like a segment that would be like in the middle of the broadcast. No, let's just jump to the judges to see what they're talking about, kind of thing.
Or here's why.
And and like, because I know they've done like, oh, here's head judge explaining how that was, but but it's a bit too like vanilla. But like, get them talking to each other, like uncut kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that would be so cool.
It could work, and it's interesting to me because I am a surf fan, right? And so when I'm watching something, there's a huge reason where I'm a horrible judge,
right?
Because everything I see, I get excited about, and it does take. I think it takes most people a minute or two when you see Julian Wilson catch a wave and does this,
right?
And you're going, oh my god. Yeah. That's the best thing I've ever seen. And then Toledo comes around and does something crazy. That's also the best thing I've ever seen.
Right.
And I think the judges are really good at being able to decipher the nuances. And when you have the opportunity afterwards, I know you have a million times. I have too. The surfers get the opportunity too. When you're able to sit down with a elite judge, after an event, after a final, and they explain it, you go, oh yeah. And in the moment, and I think we're so, trained now just through social media
Right.
that you throw whatever your thought is, you're throwing because you're not face to face with the judge, the
Right.
surfer, or whatever. You're
Right.
just right here. And you're going, oh my god, that was the worst thing I've ever seen. This judging's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
horrible.
yeah.
Send, and then you think about it, or you see an explainer on it, and you go, oh okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
But that's not going to send 99% people back to their phone to delete whatever
Right. Exactly.
lame thing
Nobody
they
cares.
wrote.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and
They're
even
not
if
gonna-
they believe it,
Mhm.
I think that it's, you know, it's there's always a reason to have a conversation about it.
Mhm.
And
That's-
I think
yeah.
that people the knee jerk reaction. Even for me, I've been doing this for so many years. My knee jerk reaction is like I'm throwing 8s and 9s every wave.
I was
And
saying, wait,
then-
I'm like, how is that not, you know?
And then you watch the replay and you go, oh, okay, cool. Like I get it.
Yeah.
You know, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm just like everyone else watching at home. You know, I'm just trying to transfer the information I'm seeing, the excitement, the energy that's happening on the wave or on that beach or at that venue
Mhm.
to everyone watching. And then you ask the question. So
Yeah.
then you're sitting next to a Mitchell, you're sitting next to a Ross Williams, and you're saying, or you know, a Jesse Mendez, and you're going, oh, that was the best surfing. But why was it a 6.5?
Right.
And
right.
then they can say, well, you see here this little, you know,
Mhm,
thing.
mhm. Yeah.
And
Once you get explained, sat down and explained,
totally.
it makes sense.
And a lot of times I know it. You know, I've
Mhm.
been doing this long enough to where I know,
Yeah, yeah.
but
You
you
know.
need to engage the audience and you need to
Yeah.
help, you know, because not everyone watching is an expert.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, you know, I consider like accidental tourists online, right? You're flipping on
Right.
YouTube and you go, oh, what Gold Coast? What is it? You know, and you
Right.
start watching it.
And then
And-
yeah.
I think over the past year or so, we've definitely, and I can't speak for WSL. There seems to be a more of an outreach now to the core, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We're growing the audience by explaining what's happening, but also we're not dumbing it down for the core.
Right.
And I think that kind of freedom that announcers have, and that
Yes.
you know the people filming and editing have, that it's not like.
Don't dumb it
We
down
don't have
too
kids'
much.
gloves on. We're like, okay, so he stood up there and then he went there, and now you see,
Right,
you
right,
know,
right.
it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
okay, it's
yeah.
obvious what's happening on screen.
Yeah.
But there's, you know, that's our job as announcers, right? To engage the core, but also explain to people that are
Mhm.
just starting their surf journey.
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and again, that's just another aspect of the job that makes it so fun
That is
and
that is
challenging, and just, you know, we judge ourselves at the end of every day. At the end of every broadcast, I go, oh man, like I was so on fire yesterday. Today I kind of sucked.
cool.
How do I get back to where I was yesterday?
Do you feel that way sometimes?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's also kind of like you get into a flow state, or you get into a zone. You know, first heat, first event. You kind of, for me, first heat, first event, whatever sport I'm doing, I'm like, okay, getting into it. But I find myself a lot of times going into straight up commentator mode, announcer
Right, right.
mode,
Right.
and it's not necessarily as much of me as I would want it to be
Mm,
in terms of style and whatever presentation. And then you settle in, and then you get into a flow, and then it just gets so fun.
Yes.
You know, then it starts to get easy, and that's when I think you perform at your best.
right.
It's the same thing with, you know, the band. First song, you're stiff,
Getting warmed
tight.
up.
Yeah, you know, your voice isn't fully warmed up yet, and so halfway through the first song, you're kind of like, okay. That's why
Yeah.
most bands will play one of their hits first, or a song that they're excited about, because
It
you
kind of
get
gets the
into
energy
it
up.
quick, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, halfway through the song, you're like, all right, I got this.
Yeah.
Next song starts, and you're going.
Yeah. What you've done, you have kind of built your distinctive style
Yeah,
of commentating,
yeah.
which I really like.
Oh, thank
Because it's
you.
like right away, you're like, oh, that's cool. That's
Thank
cool. I
you.
like that. You know, it's like you kind of feel like, I mean, obviously I've known you for a while, but even as somebody that watches, I feel like I know you when you commentate. It's the same thing with like most of the guys, you
Yeah.
know, like you feel like, oh, okay, we're all in the room together, kind
Totally.
of listening to each other.
Yeah,
And it's cool because all you guys have a different style.
yeah. And I
you
think
know.
you know when you're kind of just leaning in on your greatest hits or whatever.
Right.
You know, you're kind of like not being lazy, but you're kind of just going
Yeah.
through the motion, and then you can snap out of it quick and go, oh wait, I can improve. I can entertain more. You know,
Yeah.
I can inform more. And so it's a fun challenge, just regardless of what event you're doing, it's always a fun challenge to just push yourself to just do a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's never about me.
Right.
Even though sometimes you say, well, hey, this happened to me one
it's
time.
cool to be relatable.
Yeah. Because I still, I can surf, skate, and do all these things still. So like I have a little bit of expertise in
of course.
some avenues of, falling off my surfboard.
Do you sometimes prepare a few phrases? Like, oh, I'm going to say this funny thing here.
Oh, yeah.
At some point.
I mean, I'm sure I have notebooks over here at my desk that are full of phrases, words. My preparation for any commentary event or any commentary gig, when it's a broadcast especially, is, I will write down a bunch of words that I want to use, and I don't want to repeat myself. So let's say beautiful, I want to say something, this wave is beautiful. I'll straight up go to the thesaurus and I write down 10 ways to say beautiful, 10 ways to say choppy, whatever it is, just try to get a bunch of words on paper.
Yes.
And I write them big, and my handwriting is horrible, but words and phrases, things that I'll literally wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh my gosh,
And
write that down. Song lyrics, of course.
Yeah.
And they're all situational, but sometimes you can kind of see, okay, we got Rio Waida coming up in the next heat, and you don't get to choose who you're announcing, right? It's just whatever the schedule is. So it's like Rio's coming up, and I'm going to think of the Duran Duran song, his name is Rio and he dances on the sand, and so I'll write that down, and I go, okay, at some point I'm going to be able to use this in this heat, I think. And then, you say it once and I just cross it out. Yeah,
just so you don't repeat yourself.
Yeah, which is kind of stupid because I should just save all my paperwork, and that way I can just use it at the next event. But I like to keep it fresh, and we are armed with stats pretty much every time we do a broadcast for again whatever sport. And so I think those are kind of like, okay, these are the stats, and here's my fun stuff to try to do. That's cool. Yeah.
That's cool. I never thought about that, because I've noticed, obviously, you guys use a few words here and there. I was like, that was kind of in the back
there
pocket.
are word challenges too. That's
I remember that.
We got word challenges all the time. And I always wonder, I watch all the other sports, football, baseball, that stuff. I watch that, and I love listening to the announcer, especially when they mess up. Because when you hear a top tier announcer for the NFL mess up or flub a word, you're kind of like, yes.
Yeah.
It's not,
we're all humans.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
And I sometimes wonder, I'm sure, and I've heard podcasts and read books about announcers and the things that happen behind the scenes for this major sports. Really? And it's hilarious because at a certain level, even though we're not an NFL broadcast or, we're not the World Series, in all the sports that we do, there are these little things that are happening behind the scenes that it makes it a really fun way to connect with the crew you're working with.
Yes.
Whether it's the director in your ear, your co-commentator, the sound guy, whatever. There's all these kind of fun little games happening behind the scenes.
Yes.
That kind of keep you entertained, keep the crew entertained, and keep us all engaged.
Yeah, and the time passes by fast.
These are very long days, and I do feel like if time is feels like it went so fast that day, I feel like I did a good job.
Yeah. That's usually what happens.
Right? You're like, oh, that day was quick.
Yeah.
I must have been good today.
Yeah.
But when it's 11 a.m. and you're like, not even halfway through the day and you're already running out of words, you're like, oh God, this is going to be difficult.
It's probably good waves. When it's good wave, it's probably time passes pretty by fast.
For sure.
I remember that when it was like, oh my God, when it's firing, it's like, oh shit, go,
yeah.
And it's slow. So that's the nature of the beat.
Yeah, it's wild. The differences in the sports too. Surfing, you do have, if it's two people in the water, surfer on surfer heat, then you have a long time to tell the story about this surfer. She did this. They competed in this time. So you have time to kind of weave it all in.
Right.
Whereas if it's there's 4 surfers in the water, it's a 25-minute heat. It's just wave, and you're trying to get your little facts and your fun little phrases in there.
Yeah.
And then skating is its own beast where these are 30-second runs, 40-second runs max.
Right.
And it's say the person's name.
That's
Here
crazy.
they go. And then they do all their tricks. And then you're like, okay, so why was that better than that?
You have to know all the name of the tricks.
And the next person's dropping in. you know, and then snowboarding is its own thing. It's where it's the timing is set up to where it's just like run,
Yeah.
and you really have to be able to, you know, wrap up your thought quick, and you really have to be able to get all your info out without sounding insane.
Yes.
So I think it's cool to do all these different things because, you know, you watch like I think surfing is probably closest to a golf broadcast or a, you know, cricket, right?
Yeah.
It's 5 days, 9 hours a day, and you know, there's these highs and lows. Whereas, you know, the other sport, you know, like baseball, you could probably kind of have that.
Right.
You get to wind up, tell the story, and then bam, something big happens.
Yeah.
And then you're able to settle back in.
Yeah. It's like really high highs and low lows.
Where in the other, you know, the other sports, it's just like go, and then it's over.
Yeah.
And you know, like we did a series, Vans Park series. You'd fly to Paris. You'd be there for 2 days, watching practice, watching qualifiers, and then it's this build up, and it's like, here we go. You start at 11. Boom, we're straight into it. Into the semis, into the finals, the awards ceremony, wrap it up. And now it's like 2:30 in the afternoon. And you go, what the hell? Like all of that build up, and then it's just boom, it goes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That was kind of like what the final was trying to be, the finals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember the last couple of WSL finals that we're at, you know, it's like you're so excited.
Yeah.
And you're almost trying to contain my excitement to be at like a normal level and not be a freak way up here.
Yeah.
And then it starts, and I love the idea of events, especially like a 1 day event where it's, you know, like a final day in whatever sport, where it's like, you know, that by the end of the day you're gonna have a champion.
Yes.
Even if it's like a big wave World Tour event's a great example.
Right.
You know, you show up at Nazare and it's like dark.
Today is the day.
Rumbling. You're like, oh my gosh, here we go.
Yeah.
And then things start to go, and next thing you know, it's the semis. You know, next thing you know, you're in the finals, and then it's over, and you're just almost like catching your breath.
Yeah.
You start the train rolling, and then like there's no stopping it.
Right.
Unless it goes on pause or something like that.
Yeah.
But once
sometimes
it starts,
but
you
Big
go.
Wave didn't really.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing I liked about the finals. I wish there was a way to like marry both.
Yeah.
You know, where like we do have the running points with all the spots, but we do have a day that defines it all. We technically sometimes used to have it, but I mean, I don't have an answer for it.
Yeah,
You know,
I think
it's
I think we're gonna, you know, I think now that we have, so it'll be what I'm just as excited about everyone else is about this. You get that little postseason moment, couple events where it's just a
slight cut thing.
less cutty cut.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you go into that final day, and I think that for so many of us, are either early memories of watching surf contests or watching VHS tapes of surf contests at Pipeline, and just knowing like, okay, well, you know, even when John or Gabriel or whoever had clinched and they're going to triumphantly to Hawaii,
Right.
and it becomes a victory lap, there's always going to be a rad story in it, right?
Yeah.
And so, the final 20 or however many it's going to be now, you know, I think we're going to really be able to celebrate all the different stories going in because we had that practice with the final five.
Right.
And we were able to tell that story.
That's true.
And, you know, hopefully it's going to be a thing where, all right, we got Medina, we got John.
Yeah.
Whoever makes it the furthest in this Pipe Masters is going to be the champion.
Right.
But if so-and-so doesn't make it into the next round, he's off tour.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know, like, so there's all those fun stories. And I think now that we're going to, not that we didn't appreciate them as surf fans at the last couple years before, you know, the mid-season cut and all that, but I think we're going to just appreciate all those stories even more now. Yeah. You know, even if someone clinches, even if, you know, when there's a surfer that needs to make the final to stay on tour.
Right.
You know, I think we're going to appreciate those stories, and I think that we'll have more, I guess, more to pull from because we were missing it.
Yeah,
you know,
especially being pipe. Like
and even that one word, right?
Pipe is
Masters.
Yeah.
Which is so, it seems so subtle on paper. You know, luckily there was in the press release, whatever, there was a like, look, It's the Masters again.
Right. Yeah.
And nothing against any kind of pipe pro or whatever.
No, but having a master's, I mean, it has
Masters.
history to it.
Yes,
It has
holds weight.
Yes, it does. It does.
There's almost like always an asterisk, right? It was like the so and so pipe pro, which we're gonna watch and we're gonna be stoked. But when it's the pipe masters,
pipe masters,
so many memories.
Right.
As a longtime surf fan, go through your head. I mean, you can see all the images. Tom Carroll with his the samurai helmet.
Right.
Andy Iron, Slater, holding up the trophies like that. That is, I think, I'm getting chills. Like this is proof that I'm into this stuff.
Yeah. Nope. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad they fought it. They fought back and got it, because that's definitely something.
Yeah, for sure.
That holds its value to a point where it's like, oh, it's probably the biggest prestigious thing.
Yeah.
WSL has ever had.
Yeah,
the Pipe Masters.
That's another question. Like, well, how did they get what happened to the Pipe Masters? How did they get the name back? I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't think we need to know. I'm just stoked that it's back.
One thing that I know for sure, nothing has been done out of maliciousness, right? Like, it might have been because of oversight or anything, but like this idea that like, oh, you want to fuck this up or whatever. It's just not. It's just not. It's like things
Sponsors,
happen.
it's whatever.
Yeah, there's all these, like you said, like all these things behind the scenes that people don't realize.
Technically boring stuff.
Yes. It's like, let's just get this going.
That if you did explain it, you go, oh, well, that's not that exciting.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I thought it was just like conspiracy behind it.
It's like a duel on the beach, right? Whoever wins this fight gets to have the name Masters.
Yeah. And the guy died.
Yeah, it's a big wrestling match.
That's why I'm like adamant about this whole judge thing, transparency, because it's not, I know it's not a conspiracy thing. I know it's not like a malicious thing. It's just one of those things that like, it's just hard to explain. And like you said, there's so much involved.
Yeah.
There's emotion in the moment. There's like your favorites. There's always like when your favorite doesn't win, there's got to be someone to blame.
Yeah.
And then there's all these things like, okay, let's just be as transparent as possible with the judges. That's one thing I've always advocated for. Even when I was at WSL, I was like, let's just put a GoPro in there.
What's funny too, right? It's almost comical that someone watching can go, oh, they rigged it.
Right.
It's like, really? These 5 people and the priority judges and the head judge, everyone's conspiring to not give this person a 6-5.
Yeah.
It's like, wish we were that sophisticated that we could figure out a way to do that.
It would take too long.
We can't.
It would take too long. There's probably like favorites within the judges. That's because they're human beings. They're there 9 hours a day for years and years, but it's one of those, it's just whatever. It's human, that's why I'm like, hey, put a GoPro in there, live stream it, and see how that goes.
It's like it should be a fun argument. And sometimes people take it too far, and we see ugliness and threats and stuff online. And it's like that makes it a bummer. That makes it sad when, whatever your guy didn't win. Your girl didn't win. Yeah. And now I'm going online and I'm gonna blow your house up.
Yeah.
It's like,
fuck you.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then there's like place for those people. It's like those people are just like dumb and
they should probably
unhappy with their lives.
Yeah, go to like therapy or do something. go surf. Maybe go surf more.
Maybe they should go surf.
Yeah. If you're really that upset and feel the need to like threaten a judge or an event or whatever, you probably need to surf more. Yeah. You need to catch a good wave and you'll probably be feeling better afterwards.
Yeah. 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 What you guys do though is really, really hard. Like I've watched you guys behind the scenes. Like, have you done any kind of training for it?
I think more just self-training. And I was at Transworld Surf 1999 to 2013, a couple years in. It was actually pretty early internet, right? Posting stuff took a long time because you had to do all the code. Luckily, I didn't know how to do that, but somebody else did it. My brother did it actually. So I did a show called Cote's Cube, and it was basically just like this. Whenever pro surfers were coming in and out of the office all the time, and so just the most rudimentary 1 camera, 2 mics, or 1 mic, and just like, hey, sit down for 5 minutes. What are you up to? You filming for a video, da da da. And so we put these little interviews out, and so that was kind of my first. I'd always done stupid stuff on camera with my friends. Yeah. Whatever, all the time.
Especially coming from the surfing world.
Yeah, we're always performing. We're skating, we're surfing, we're doing skits, we're doing all that stuff. So that was kind of my early training. And then I started doing the Cote's Cube stuff. And through that, I go, oh, okay, well, like, because a lot of people admittedly don't want to talk on camera.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to sit and interview somebody. They don't want to talk in front of a big group. That's a really common fear. But
Right.
for me, it just I loved it.
Yeah.
And I still love it. So I did that. And through that, the magazine would sponsor events. And early on, we sponsored the US Open. And so I was in one of the sponsorship meetings and I'm like, hey, put it in the contract. I get to announce,
That's
like
cool.
slide me in there.
Yeah.
And so thankfully they slid me in there. And so I don't know. I think it was ASP at the time.
Yeah.
And so they didn't really get a choice. I just showed up and they're like, oh yeah, you're on the list. All right, sit down.
Yeah, sit down, do it.
And so it was kind of a trial by fire early on, but right around that same time, so I'm doing that. And then I start working for Fuel TV, guest host for Daily Habit. And again, another trial by fire that was shot as live, with an IFB. And these are all things, a headset with a mic. I got it used to it pretty quick.
Yeah.
But I think the multitasking element of announcing or of hosting a live event is underrated because most of the time when you 100%. See, someone comes in, whether it's a sponsor or a surfer, they haven't tried to talk while someone else is talking.
That is the hardest thing. Yeah. That is the hardest thing.
And that's always kind of a rewarding moment when you're with a surfer and they're going like,
they're freaking out.
Oh, you guys sitting here, you just sit here and talk like this is easy.
Right.
And then they put the thing on and then they try and you see their face just like, who's talking to me?
Yeah.
How are you talking while he's talking, Right. And so getting used to that. Because when you're
talking, they're all the time talking to you, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we have 30 seconds. It's about to go to the break.
For sure.
All right, Cote, like start wrapping it up, right? Like,
hey, Tony Hawk's joining the show in 5, in 5, 4, and I'm sitting here talking about, whatever what the wood the ramp's made out of.
I'll be the worst at that job. I'll be the worst at that job.
Well, I do career day at my son's junior high school every year.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the exercises I do is I'm like, hey, this is what it's like to be on a live broadcast. And so I sit one of the kids down in the chair. And I go, all right, describe what so-and-so is wearing in this front row. And they start going, I'm like, okay, change the topic. You need to describe what so-and-so is wearing in the back row. And so like,
but they don't wait for you to end, right?
No,
like,
yeah. You got to be able to wrap it up or throw to something. And it goes really fast. But by working with and watching other really good commentators again in all the sports, like Joe Turpel, I mean the master.
Yeah, he's the master.
And
he's so
the
good.
fact that he remembers every heat that's ever happened.
Yeah.
So not only does he have this mechanism that's allowing him to, basically just like guide what we're seeing via the producer, the director in his ear, but also who he's talking to, but also he has this other file.
Right.
So he's doing all of this, running this show, and then he's like, oh yeah, and then he actually lost to Aki in 2001 in
crazy.
The first round, and so working with people like that make you better, I'm just sitting in the room, I'm sitting in the studio watching people work and going, ooh, okay, like I'm gonna try to use a little bit of that one right there.
Yeah.
And then it's the same with working with, let's say Tony Hawk, right? At a Vertler event. And, he's not a announcer per se, but the fact that you can ask a person like that anything and you can't pretty much argue with Tony Hawk or Kelly Slater.
Right.
I mean, you can, but you're not probably going to win.
You're not going to win that subject. No.
So it's, that kind of stuff, just like pulling from what other people are doing, constantly learning. Like I leave my ego in my office, like my ego's over there. So when I'm working, I leave that all there because I know that I can still learn in every heat. I can still learn at every skate run. I'm constantly trying to learn.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I've been able to do this for so long. It's like, I'm not stubborn in that way.
I think that's the biggest thing, right? You're just able to learn.
Yeah. Soak it in and, try to just like be humbled by your mistakes.
Yeah.
And just try to improve, try to stay loose.
Yeah.
Like don't be rigid in what you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
Try to stay loose. And
absolutely.
That like saying loose, I think is that is a virtue that's going to get you through make you better at a lot of things you do,
Many things.
whether it's
Yeah.
physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Stay loose.
Yeah.
There's reason, right? Hang loose, stay loose.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also I think for the people that like in your position, they're broadcast 9 hours a day, having to talk. Like you have to talk. You can't just shy away. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the big element to it is living what you talk about.
Right.
Like you surf, you skate, you snowboard. Like you've always done that. That's your life. Maybe the field reporter doesn't really have to do as much because you could learn and kind of throw it back to the person and memorize a couple questions. But being in front of a mic, watching the thing, describing to the people that are watching it, that you have to live that thing.
Yeah.
You have to live that sport.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do it for too long.
Yeah, we have to, I think you have to live it. You don't necessarily have to, I do big wave world tour events sometimes, and like I've never been on a wave over 12 foot.
Well, but you live.
But I know
yeah.
how dangerous it is. I know how hard that is.
I mean, but big wave is one of those things that like.
Yeah, it's
there.
crazy.
How many? What's the percentage of people in the world that live
Yes.
like 0.1? There's
10
like
people.
yeah. There's like 10 to 20 people in the world.
Yeah.
That live it. That actually live it. But you live surfing, which is the best.
Yeah, I think I'm passionate about my doing of the sport, of the surfing, of the skate. I'm passionate about doing it.
Mhm.
I'm passionate about watching it. And for me, when I see somebody who is doing what they love and passionate about what they're doing,
Mhm.
whether it's a band, a painter, a
Right.
surfer, a skater, somebody that you can just tell has poured so much into this
Mhm.
and they're trying. Like, I love to see effort.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
You don't necessarily want to see it look like they're trying,
Mhm.
but you know they're trying. And
Yes.
they're giving it their all. And, I don't have time to watch somebody half-assing something. Like, I want to see you do it.
That's my thing. I love people that try and are passionate about whatever
Yes.
it is.
Yes.
Whatever it is. If you are passionate and you try, you're already successful.
Yeah,
You're already successful because automatically you're gonna learn and evolve.
totally.
The worst people are the ones that are like pretend to know stuff just because for a return of something.
Yeah.
To look cool, for the money or whatever it is.
Or naturally gifted that kind of waste their gifts.
Right. Those people
by-
are just in the middle. They're like, whatever.
Yeah.
You just wasted. You know?
Like think about, so I listen to all different kinds of music. There's a lot of bands that I listen to that, you see this band live and this person traditionally can't sing. They traditionally can't play guitar. They're not Jimmy Page. They're doing their thing. But when you see somebody performing with passion
Mhm,
and
mhm.
heart
It
and,
brings you
and
in.
they're trying, you're like, I might not even like this style of music. Like,
Yeah.
but the fact that this person's doing it
Yeah.
with that much heart and soul, I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's the same with surfing and with skating. It's like, again, you don't necessarily want to look like you're trying so hard,
Right.
But
Yeah.
the fact that like you're doing it with purpose and you're doing it, you can tell when someone's kind of doing it
Just
to
passionate.
impress others, right?
Yeah,
But when they're
yes.
doing it to impress themselves,
Mhm.
I think that's what really shines.
Yeah.
And like, again, even if someone's not great at surfing or not great at skating, it's like if they're trying
Right.
and they're giving their soul to this thing,
Yeah.
you can't not be a fan of that.
Yeah, you can't. You can't. That's why I personally love surfing because I surf for myself. I'm not good at surfing. I don't try to be. I don't pretend to be.
Yeah.
But I love being in the water surfing. That's my time.
Yeah.
It's like my jiu-jitsu time.
Yeah.
When I go, I just want to. Jiu-jitsu a little different because I really want to get better.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like where surfing, I just want to be there at that time.
Yeah.
I don't care of like learning the biggest air. I don't care about that stuff. I just want to be in the water surfing.
Being present.
Being present,
Yeah.
And jiu-jitsu, I want to get better,
Right.
Like I want to like learn the ins and outs of things. But surfing, to me, that's why it's an art,
Yeah.
It's like way more of an art than anything else for me because
But you never regret it,
You never regret it.
You never regret, even if it's the worst waves. You went out, you did it, you come in, you're like, okay, cool. Well, that's gonna make my day better.
yeah.
Unless
Even
you
if
step on a
you
stingray
catch
or
like half a
something.
wave, if you catch half of a wave, it's already
Yeah.
makes your day better.
Yeah. I try to tell myself that all the time, that the waves are bad. It's cold. I'm like, I want to just watch, TV or do something else. And then you just go, okay, I'm going to go. And you do it and you kind of change your attitude and you're like, okay, I'm not even forcing myself anymore. I want to go. I'm going to go. You catch 2 waves, you stand up and you come in and you're like, all right, cool. I got exercise. I breathed in, salt water, which is extremely healthy for you. I did all these things purely for myself.
Yeah.
And there's other times where, I do bring my ego to the beach and I'm like, I want to get it clipped today.
Yeah. Well, it's
I need
different.
something for my
You've done it
Instagram.
professionally.
Yeah.
So that's very different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've done it professionally. You've done the era that was like, I don't want to say the gold era because that's kind of like debatable, but that back in the days, surfing was a lot more in the media.
Yeah.
It was like surf movies was everywhere. Everybody wanted to be a surfer.
We got 13 years of Transworld Surf magazines right there for you to pick from.
Yeah, there you go. It was magazines. People had posters on. I remember like ripping the pages off and unfolding it and putting it, and like dreaming about like one day I just want to be in the channel.
Totally.
And then you'll see movies and all that stuff. Today, not so much.
Yeah, and you'd meet, you'd actually go to a surf contest or somehow Tom Curran would be at your local spot and you're going, oh my God.
Yeah.
You have to physically go over there. You've seen his picture in the magazine a million times. And you're going, I got to go over there and actually introduce myself.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, Tom Curran? I'm a DM him.
DM him real quick.
Hey, bro, you're the best. It's like, I have nothing against that.
Yeah.
But I just remember being a kid and, the closest you could get to your favorite surfer was the magazine, right? You're looking at it. And then if you're lucky, we were lucky and fortunate enough to grow up down the street from probably the greatest surf movie theater in the world, La Paloma.
Yeah.
And so we'd be, once a month in the summer or whatever, you get a big movie coming through and you go, oh my gosh, everyone in town's going.
Right.
Beyond Blazing Boards is coming. Everyone's going. And, that was like, you just developed this hero worship.
Right.
And you didn't get to see, Tom Curran or Aki. You didn't get to see them like at a bar doing something stupid or whatever.
Yeah. It was more limited, right?
Yeah, you didn't get to see them going, hey, I have these new socks and you can buy them too. Use the code. Which again, I do that shit all day long.
Right.
But you never saw your heroes doing that. And so they were still exalted. And then when you actually got to meet them, it was cool. Special.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people still have that feeling, like when you watch like a little kid who looks up to a John, a Griff or whoever.
Right.
And they have that look in their eyes like, yes, that's it.
That's it.
And then, but again, for a lot of us, it's like we have access,
right?
And
I was thinking about the other day. I was like, how come the era was like so like surfing was so big? It's because I think the media outlet was smaller. Like if you were on TV, you were big.
Yeah.
Didn't matter.
When they were surfing on TV, you were so hyped.
It was so hyped.
Yeah. Once a year, maybe twice a year.
Yeah. And then there was like a movie come out, it would be like a huge thing. And that person became automatic superstar.
Oh, we put the VHS tape in. I would go as far as you'd be watching the movie and then I would audio record the soundtrack with the tape player. You audio record that. And then, you have this movie so ingrained in your brain. I'm walking to school with my headphones on. I'm listening to the soundtrack for Running Man 69 or, again, Beyond Blazing Boards, something like that, where you're just like, you're hearing the music, the voiceover, whatever is going on, and you're in the movie still.
Yeah.
And to kind of flip it though, you think of golden eras now at any moment, any time in the day, I go, I want to watch Green Iguana.
Yeah.
5 seconds later, I'm watching my favorite surf movie.
Yeah.
And so, or like, I want to know you'd never be able to know what so-and-so's board was. Like, what is
you can never find
Aki
out.
writing?
Right.
Now it's like, let me see. Okay, cool. Aki's writing a 5.7. It's 2 point,
which is cool.
You got all the facts.
But also for the non-surfing community, surfing was bigger. Because like when the surf...
It was exotic.
Yeah, it was exotic. And then when a surf movie hit, like I feel like a lot of people outside of surfing
Yeah.
actually watched it too. And it was like that. It was like, whoa, what is that? That's so
Yeah.
cool. You know, it was like,
North Shore, you know.
yeah, North Shore was, I remember watching North Shore in Brazil. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Blue Crush.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the Blue Crush effect was huge. That
Blue
was
Crush effect was, yeah, I didn't realize until like,
yeah, you
recently.
didn't
I was
know.
like, cool.
We didn't
Yeah.
really know when it was happening. We
Yeah.
watched it and go, "Oh, that was cool." You know,
Right.
like they actually showed great, awesome surfing in a Hollywood
Yeah, yeah,
setting in the theater.
yeah.
You know, because it's one thing to go to a surf movie premiere; it's another thing to go to a movie
Mhm.
and see surfing, and you're going, "Oh, okay, that was legit."
Yeah, yeah.
It's easy to pick apart at times. It is
Right,
Hollywood,
right,
but
right.
it's like for the most part, you're going, "Okay,
Yeah,
that was
cool.
proper."
Yeah, yeah.
You know, now
that is
like,
cool.
and you kind of feel proud a little bit. You're like, "Okay,
Yeah,
now everybody knows that surfing is hard.
yeah.
You can get pounded,
Get
like
yes.
it's cool."
Yeah, and I think the positive side of it all today, it's probably, I don't know, what do you think? Do you think there's more people making money off surfing now or before? There was more money in surfing before,
Yeah.
no doubt. But is there more people in quantity making money off surfing? Like maybe the free surfers, the vloggers out there.
Oh, like actual surfers?
Yeah, actual surfers. Because
Well,
before, I think the pool was really
I
small,
think 10
right?
years ago, everyone was making money.
That's true.
5 years ago, a few less people were making money. And nowadays, you have to really be doing something to be making money.
Yeah, in terms of millionaires, there's only like 5 of 3,
Yeah.
like per year.
I think there's more. It's maybe it's evened out, right? Because before it was like, okay, you have the contest guys, and if you do well in the contest, you get on tour, you're making money from sponsors, you're winning events, you're making money there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're lucky, if you're real good, you're gonna get Audi to sponsor you. You're gonna get whatever, some soda, Red Bull, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get a big sponsor. You're gonna make a ton of money there, and then you're gonna supplement your income winning contests. You had free surfers that they were sponsored by Quicksilver or Billabong, a brand that paid them, and then they could kind of supplement their things with other sponsors. And their job was to get a photo in the magazine, film a video part. We definitely took away a lot of avenues for mid-tier contest surfers, for mid-tier free surfers.
Yeah, free surfers are not kind of
Soul surf longboarders who were maybe getting paid early on by a longboard kind of based sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
We took away a lot of those avenues just because the pool wasn't big enough. But now you have, vlogger surfers, YouTube stars, Nathan Florence, Z, guys that figured out the system. Jamie O'Brien's an amazing example of somebody who has kind of done like every way to make a lot of money as a surfer, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Early on, doing contests, sponsored, getting paid by sponsors, and anytime that Pipe Masters, Vulcan Pipe Pro would come around, like he's gonna win some money there. From there, transition into probably the first big surf vlogger.
Yeah, yeah.
Crushed it, is still crushing it.
Right. Like
So-
Kai Lenny, he's not a competitor. He's more of a like
Yeah, and Kyle Lenny probably makes way more money than most guys on tour.
Yeah.
And so there's like avenues that were taken away, but avenues that were added. I'm assuming you can make money being a TikTok surfer. I see them on my phone.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know how that like financial system works, but I know that, Nathan Florence, again, great example, doing it his way,
Mm-hmm.
doing it himself, full DIY operation,
Yeah.
but bet online in the bottom corner. Like that's huge.
Yeah, huge.
You look at his sponsors and you're like, he's killing
Well,
it.
that's what I was trying to think about. It is like, okay, like maybe obviously surfing in it doesn't have a lot more money than the way it was in your time.
Yeah.
Because everybody kind of before, if you were pretty good, you probably had a sponsor.
Yeah, you're getting a couple grand a month.
Yeah, you do
even
one
as a-
trip a year.
Yeah,
Like one boat trip a year, really cool. Get them in a movie here and there.
yeah. Get a photo in a mag, you get $1,000 from your
Right.
sponsor.
Now is like you're an Instagram surfer or a TikTok surfer. You could get $2,000 for a post.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
if you already have that big following, you're building your following by doing either if it's skits on the beach, you're not even necessarily showing yourself surfing. You're showing some of the most popular, because I do deep dives all over the place,
Mhm.
for the podcast and just for my own personal curiosity. what are people watching? Who's getting 100,000 views
Yeah.
plus on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube? You know, and in most cases, it is. There's a young woman that I've seen a bunch who is, you know, she can surf, she can stand up and go down the line, but the draw is it's like for beginners, right? So she's going, all right, I'm going to surf this wave pool. I've never surfed in a wave pool. Here's what I'm bringing.
Very
It's
vloggy.
the very TikTok-y, vloggy deal. And I know she's not making it for me,
Right.
but 250 other thousand people love it.
Yeah.
And I'm watching, I'm like, cool, this is,
Yeah.
I'm entertained.
Right.
I'm not going to watch it again probably for a little while, but
yeah.
you know,
But a
it's-
lot of people do.
exactly. And that's like a non-pro surfer who's probably making a decent living off of, like these are this person's strengths.
Right.
You know, if you're a handsome kid and you can do a TikTok dance and you have a surfboard, you don't even necessarily have to go out in the water.
Right.
And you're
That's
getting
true.
paid to be a surfer.
Yeah. And then
For
there's
better or
those,
for worse.
There are those people that like surf well, never have really the opportunity maybe to compete. And then they're like later on in life that people found out about it where they surf well.
Yeah.
And then now they just take it to Instagram or TikTok or
Totally.
YouTube and they make a live of it.
Testing boards, testing, surf gear.
Yeah.
There's so many. So you have like the traditional ways to make money as a surfer, and then you have, let's say, just YouTube, for example. There's 100 different ways
Yes.
that you can get on there.
Monetize,
And
yeah.
I know, like maybe a 5% of them are actually like getting monetized and making money.
Right.
But maybe some of them are getting free boards, a free wetsuit because
Traveling, doing that stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. My buddy, you know him. I think he worked there. I think you met him. Hunter Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a great surfer.
Yes.
He quit WSL just to try it.
Yeah.
Doing his professional surfing. He doesn't really compete, but he lives off of it.
He's crushing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Body glove.
And I think that's somebody that found their niche and persona through trying a bunch of different things.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I watch his stuff all the time, and it's like, okay, not only good looking guy,
Right.
well spoken, he can share a message very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at this beach. We're gonna try this board out.
Right.
Let's go. And then he can do 540s. He can do big airs, and
Right.
it's like he's a guy that I think has kind of like taking, it's his own business, right?
Yeah. He found his.
He's not relying
found
on
his way.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
not like he edits his own stuff,
Right.
And I think that like
Yeah. There's a bunch of people like him.
yeah,
Right.
the
like through
DIY
surfing.
thing, the DIY surf thing on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram is super rad.
Yeah.
Because it shows you too that, and I think a lot of people have a non-starter when they want to go and make a video. Well, I don't know how to edit, or I don't know a
Yes.
video guy. I'm not good enough to hire somebody to come film me surf or skate.
Yeah.
And the fact that now it's like you can do everything. You can set your thing up on the, if you want, you set your thing up on the beach.
Yeah. Well, there's like cameras that follow you now and everything.
Exactly. Yeah. Take your clip off surf line, do an intro, boom.
Boom, you're done.
You're making content.
Yeah. Another
You're making
great
millions.
example was Ben, where he just surfs.
Ben Gravy.
Yeah, Ben Gravy. I love
mean,
Ben Gravy.
Brilliant, right? It's a brilliant thing for him to, he was always filming stuff before, kind of like Jackass style stuff.
He's been doing that stuff for so
Yeah.
long.
He was filming everything. Great surfer. Probably realized when he was a teenager, that he wasn't going to go and be on the championship tour, but he could still get barreled. He could still do airs. Great personality, and his story is well documented. It actually helped narrate his biography documentary thing.
Oh, did you?
And just pretty rad, the transition, right? And that is someone that was not going to accept no. He was always going to be a surfer.
Right.
And the fact that he was able to kind of find this lane, everybody loves to surf a novelty wave here and there, but when you make it, who has more passion about novelty waves than Ben Gravy?
No one does.
No one.
No one.
And so for him to be able to identify that, and like I don't remember even the term novelty waves before Ben Gravy.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it was like, this is what I'm gonna do,
Right.
and I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And he can speak into the camera. He's funny. He can edit.
Funny, Eric could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he
And
grows.
he
to the-
was ahead of a time.
oh yeah,
because-
grows to the point to where he now can afford to have a filmer and an editor, and
Mhm.
you know, brings his lady along with him, and she's
Yeah.
filming, and so now it becomes this cottage industry,
Right.
and like it seems endless
Right.
because just when you think, well, he's done it all, he surfed every novelty wave in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's in Antarctica and he's surfing a
Yeah.
wave that comes off the back of a
That-
whale or whatever. It's like,
It's so cool.
yeah, I love that stuff, and you
Yeah.
know, again, that's somebody doing it for the right reasons, doing it with passion
Because he loves
and
it.
not giving up.
Yeah.
I bet his first, if you go back and you probably look at when he first started, puts up a novelty wave video and people are just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Second one, they're like, it's all right. Third one,
So that's kind of cool.
I kind of like
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Fifth one, they're like the biggest Ben Gravy fan in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it. I remember when I was at WSL, I reached out to him. Hey, can we post one of your clips? Just because it's so rad.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Then people were like, "Oh, posting you." And it's like, whatever. It was cool.
yeah.
It was
There,
really
and
cool.
there's a lot of things like there's something to be said for if you know you're an expert or you consider yourself an expert and you have a resume or something to back up the idea that you consider yourself an expert.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I do this too, is that you get a little hung up on what you think the audience is going to want.
Right.
Whether you're playing in a band, whatever you're doing. What's the audience going to want?
Mm-hmm.
And you maybe can take away a little bit from yourself. You can doubt yourself. Well, like, I really like this new song, but I don't know if the audience is going to like it.
Right. Right.
Well, that's why certain people are in a position that they're in, because
They
they
don't-
knew
yeah.
and they thought, well, the audience is probably not going to like this at first, but I like it, so screw
Yeah.
them. I'm playing it.
If you do it for the right reasons, which we were saying before, what
Yeah.
you said is like you do it because you love it. Who cares?
Yeah,
Who cares?
exactly.
And at some point, they're gonna understand
Yes.
because you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
You know, you're passion. I think passion brings like consistency, and then consistency will bring like you are what's it called? Confident about it.
Yeah.
So then like passion, consistent, and confident. And then people understand, like once you're confident and passionate about something, people will listen to you.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what is this thing? And then they will understand.
Yeah, there was
know.
there was a famous or a David Bowie quote that always stuck with me, and I can't recite it perfectly, but basically saying, with humility, I'm David Bowie. These are my songs. I will decide what I want to play.
Yes.
Like I know the majority of you probably want the greatest hits, but I'm excited about these songs.
Right.
I'm gonna play these songs.
Yeah. That's
You
the way
know.
to do it.
And I think that can kind of go in anything, right? Like people, let's say a skater is known for a certain trick, and like he loves that trick, but at the same time he's got a bunch of other tricks.
Right. Right. That he
And
likes
the people
doing.
want that one trick, but then you're like, I'll give you that trick, but you're gonna watch these other tricks first that
Right.
I like,
Right. Right.
and then that's how you expand your fan base or
Mm-hmm.
expand your fan base's mind.
Right.
Because we want to go to a show and see the greatest hits, of course. A lot of times when a band plays their new stuff, you go to the bathroom or you go to the bar. But I think we should stay and listen to the band's new stuff
Yeah, I agree.
and watch.
Let the artist be the
surfer's
artist.
new stuff. Yeah,
I think the
trust
artist,
them. That's why we're fans of them.
yes, you're fans of them, not
Yeah.
just the music. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And that's why I think but that's why I like people that, like yourself, have done everything to stay with the things that they're passionate about. Because sometimes you meet like ex-athletes or something like that, and they're frustrated in life because they didn't make it pro.
Yeah.
And now it's like, fuck, I'm better than most of these people, and they're pros, and I should have been. It's like, well, find something that
Yeah.
relates to your passion that you could still work around,
Totally.
like a commentator, or, writing magazines, podcasts, and all that stuff. Like,
Start a vlog.
start a vlog.
Start it. Yeah. Start your own YouTube channel.
Yeah, I think that's the way to like keep people happy.
Yeah.
Like stay passionate about the stuff that you're passionate about. Find a way to like obviously live off of it somehow. It's not going to be easy at first.
Yeah.
It might take a while, but that currency is way more valuable than money.
Yeah, and it's also like, what are you willing to trade, right? Like I personally, I'm willing to trade, you know, not making as much money as my neighbor because some days I just decide I'm going to surf all day,
Yeah.
or or
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want that freedom to be able to. Today I'm going to cut up a bunch of skateboards and try to make some piece of art with it. I do have to work, of course. We'll have to work if we want to pay our bills and stuff, but you make a choice, right? I could have gone and worked at a company for many years, and if that's what I wanted to do, and again, I know people that are so passionate about their jobs,
Right.
and they've been doing that job for 30 years, and I have so much respect for that. I just couldn't. I just didn't.
That's not for you.
I didn't. Yeah, it wasn't for me. And I guess the trade offs are, you can have this car, or you can have my Toyota Sienna minivan 2020, which I love. It's all stock.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's like, I guess you can be an artist and be rich. We know rich artists, or you can be an artist and, have to supplement yourselves in other ways.
Yes.
But I think if you're, I don't think it's not complacency. It's more of like acceptance of, this is how I'm choosing to live.
Yeah, I think it's happy.
Yeah.
I think it's happy.
Being happy. And I really feel like in all the jobs I've ever had, there's times where I'm just like, oh, sometimes you have to stop and like give yourself a second to think about, like, am I happy?
Yes.
Do I like this?
100%.
And
100%.
More often than not, I'm like, wow, I'm happy.
Yeah.
People ask me why I'm positive all the time. It's because I love what I do, and I love what I don't do.
Yeah.
I love what I don't have to necessarily do at times,
Yes.
and I'm super thankful for that.
And that's a rare thing.
Yeah.
That's a rare thing. For me, that I've always worked at a corporate kind of side of things. Just seeing people that are defined by their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they make a lot of money and they're just miserable.
Yeah.
They lose family because of it. They lose friends because of it. They don't do anything because of it. And they become this person that just watches Netflix and go to work. And if they do anything outside of that routine, it's awkward for them. Like they don't know what to do. So they don't know what they like. They don't know what their leisures would be nice. So when they retire, they're just lost. Like, what the fuck? What do I do now?
Yeah.
And
it's fun. Sometimes it's fun to see those people with their second act.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like I remember I knew this guy that was he was like selling cars, and he was selling trucks, right? That was like his thing. And he had no interest in surfing or anything like that. He finally retires, and now he became an avid everyday surfer. And like you just saw this joyful switch.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And of course it's like, he had to work his ass off to be able to retire, to be able to do it. But you saw this joyful switch, and you're just like, wow, like all this person could have started surfing a long time ago.
Yeah, would have been happier. He probably thinks that too.
Yeah, they're like, damn, I should have started surfing a long time ago.
Yeah, surfing is one of those things that, like, once you do it, you automatically happier.
Yeah,
you're automatically happier. It doesn't matter the level of surfing.
Oh, for sure. And if someone's into it and they want to learn how to surf, and you teach them how to surf, and they get up on a wave and they look at you like, oh my God, I can't believe this just happened.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I got more out of that than them.
Yeah,
I helped push you into the wave.
Yeah. It's the most fun when you go surfing with somebody that's learning and they like get up the first time.
Yes.
And he's just like so happy.
Yeah. And it's, again, totally cheesy, but giving somebody a wave that's a good wave. And I can admit I do it every once in a while. I love catching waves. So a lot of times I don't get to surf as much or for as long. So I'm like, I'm going to go on the next one. But in the occurrence that you are in the spot and somebody's like looking at it, and if you've been watching the session, you got to, like, there's certain perceptive thing that you have in the water when you're in the lineup. You're like, all right, this person's catching a bunch of waves. This guy over here has like been sitting there for 20 minutes. He hasn't caught a wave.
Yeah.
There's a little kid in there. This little girl looks nervous. And so I think the best surfers in the water, at least the ones with empathy,
the nice ones.
The nice ones will be able to go, okay, well, let's manage this situation a little bit. I'm going on my wave. I want the best wave. Of
Yeah,
course, we
yeah,
all
yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But you
But
know,
if an okay wave comes
if
around, and
if you're
like,
in the zone and you realize, okay, well, this guy hasn't caught a wave in a long time, you can just feel it. Like it's not give them the wave.
yeah,
The little girl on the inside who's watching you go down the line, like is he
Right.
gonna fall?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
pull out. Let her have the end of the wave.
yeah. That's
you
cool.
know,
That's
like
cool. Not a
man,
lot of people are like that.
yeah. I mean, and again, I'm no saint in the water. Trust me. But being able to kind of manage the situation in the lineup at the skate park, it's the same thing.
Mhm.
You see a little kid across the park that's like trying to figure out when to drop in. Like there's no, it's so easy to just go over there and be like, all right, hey, I'm going to tell you when to go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
That's
like,
cool. That's cool.
or just the
You make their day.
yeah, the
the
simple
week.
part of going around the park and just being like, what's up? What's up? Like, because there's always, if you're with a crew, there's
Mhm.
going to be one or two people, and a lot of people go to the park for different reasons. Some people it's headphones, they want to be left alone, like
Right.
But
Right.
there's other people that are, like
Trying to
maybe
find
haven't
their
been to the
yeah.
park ever, or they're, like this simple thing of just going up and being like, what's up? Like, happy
That
Friday.
makes a whole difference.
Yeah, and it's the same in the water. It's like
Mhm.
I think you know when somebody's having a rough time out there.
Yes.
But then again, sometimes I'm the one having a rough time, so I'm like looking around like, someone let me get a wave,
Yeah. Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the little things like managing the lineup, seeing what's happening at the skate park and around, and this can be on the freeway and traffic,
Mhm.
whatever,
Mhm.
and just trying to have a little bit of empathy for what's happening around you.
Yes.
I think it can help a lot, and it can help someone, they get that one wave and they're like, oh, finally I got a wave.
Yeah.
Stoked. I can go in, I can go to work. I'm gonna be happy with the rest of the day.
Yes. Well, there was one time in Tahiti when I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to surf Teahupu because today is small.
Yeah.
And I went out there, and I mean, it was small, but for me it was huge. I'm not,
Yeah.
anything for me over 6 foot, I'm already
2 foot chopo is scary.
Yeah.
No matter
and
what.
like everybody was out there was like Jesse Mendez, Wiggly Dantas, like everybody, all those people. So Wiggly came to me. He's like, oh, how you doing, Felipe? I was like, I'm nervous, man. I was like, no, it's fine, it's fine. Just be right next to me, stay next to me. So he didn't even stay up the point. He just,
Yeah.
he just stayed with me just so I could feel comfortable. That was the nicest thing.
Yes.
And then
feels
we're
good.
chatting. I felt so comfortable. I'm like, whatever happens, I'm fine. you know?
Totally.
And then it comes a set, like the West Bowl that comes usually. And then he's like, Felipe, he looks at me, he's like, Felipe, pedal hard. You're gonna get fucked.
Yeah.
But you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. Just pedal hard and then you'll be fine.
Do your best.
Do your best. And it's crazy, right? They pedal, like they do 2 pedals and they're already all the way over there.
Yeah.
And my paddling is like, and I just get worked. I just get worked under. Just come up, get the sec. Somebody was getting a sick barrel, and I just got it. And then I just kept remembering him saying, like, you'll be fine. You're gonna get worked, but you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And that made me feel so much better.
Yeah.
And then I caught one wave and left, and I was like, okay, good for me.
Yeah.
Good enough.
I did.
But just that,
Totally.
I will always remember it.
Yeah.
And it was literally less than a minute that we like chatted,
Yeah, and then it didn't take him much time, energy, or effort, but that has stuck with you for 10 plus years.
Yes.
That 30 seconds of Wiggly Dantas time.
Yeah.
That
he literally sat next to me. He didn't have to. There was no one else around me. He sat next to me. He was just like, "You'll be fine. I'll be here with you for a little bit. Blah blah blah. Don't worry."
Yeah.
And that to me was like, okay,
That's epic.
What you're saying. It's like those little efforts in places that people are uncomfortable from someone, like you, Wiggly, or someone that is like experienced. It could be like, "You okay?
Yeah.
Okay." Or, "Hey, how you doing? Good." That thing makes a world of
Hey,
difference.
you go next.
Yeah, you go next. Yeah. Jad, Jad. Jad and I, we did like a fantasy thing, and then the loser will have to give a set wave.
I've been in the water with you guys when this happens.
Oh, were
I
you
love
there?
this. Yes.
Yeah. How good is this?
Yes.
How good is it? So
And it's just like the look. You're like, all right. Remember?
So
This
that was
is
one time
mine.
I had one, and he owed me a wave.
I think I was out there with you guys.
I think so. I think you were
was that
there.
Tahiti or
I think that was in Malibu
it was yeah
or somewhere.
I remember
maybe it
was
wasn't
somewhere.
Tahiti.
I feel like it was somewhere tropical, and maybe this was a bet that he had with somebody else, and it was somebody else. But I just remember
Having that back.
I thought 100% that was you. Where it was like, oh, remember, here we go.
Yeah,
This is mine.
yeah, that was me. He
Yeah.
it was basically his turn.
So good.
And I was next to him on the inside, and then I looked at him and like, this
Yeah.
is mine.
Oh, remember?
Count it.
Beat the low one.
And
Remember?
and then he
That
just
means
looked
I
at me
win.
pissed. He's like, okay, go.
Yeah.
But then it's like he's such a good sport. It was awesome. It was
Yeah.
so cool. Yeah. Yeah, I think those experiences are memorable. Little things. And that's just everywhere. Not surfing, not just surfing, but just
Totally.
like being nice to people it goes a long way,
Yeah.
you know. And most people that are happy with their lives, like because they did the things that they're passionate about, it's easier for them, like what you do.
Yeah.
You know, it's easier for them to be nice to people.
It's probably easier to enjoy success, however you define that, by when you didn't have to like step on somebody's throat or
Yes.
throw somebody under the bus to get that success.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, I've had many opportunities to potentially like backstab somebody or
Mm-hmm.
throw somebody under the bus to get my way,
Right.
whether it was deserved or not. But I think it just feels a lot better when you don't have to
You can
hurt
yeah.
someone else
Yeah.
to get to the next step of something or to achieve something.
Yeah. It's liberating.
Yeah.
Not doing things like that when you're just completely comfortable where like I haven't done any malicious thing to anybody to get here. I don't need to and I won't do it.
Yeah.
And I've seen people do it. I was probably like I felt like that in like corporate world. Like that it's almost like you get trained to do that
Yeah.
because everybody around you do it. And it's
Yeah.
almost a normal thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, at some point, at least in my career in corporate life, at some point I almost did it because it was a normal thing. It was almost like if you are like lured into like corruption and you're like, oh, I got to do a little corruption.
Well,
too,
everyone else is
because
doing it.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, no. Wait. I'm not going to do it. You know?
Yeah.
And it feels so liberating. And people kind of notice. People notice like Felipe doesn't do that. Or,
Yeah.
you know, so it's nice. And for it to happen, you have to be really happy with yourself.
Yeah. I think so.
Because it's difficult, you know. Yeah.
I think some people find it easier to be a dick than it is to be nice,
Mhm.
and vice versa.
Right.
For me, I have to work really hard to be a jerk.
Yeah.
I have to like apply myself to be a jerk. Sometimes you have to be a jerk,
Sometimes you have to,
but
be
I have
a
to
little
like
bit.
dig in and go, okay, like you got to do this.
Yeah, I'm the same
Yeah.
way. To me, it's the easiest thing is to be nice.
Yeah,
That's the easiest thing. Doesn't cost anything. It's easy.
totally. Like obviously there's lines, right? There's things like I'll be nice to this point and then whatever. But
Right.
it is
Like
again,
fairness.
Yeah, I think it is. There's just like certain personality types where
Yeah.
they have to dig in and be like, you're gonna be nice today. You know?
Yeah, some people
You're
do.
not gonna rage on the freeway. You're gonna be cool on the freeway today. You can do it. There's just like those personalities where
Yeah.
you got to talk yourself into things.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. A lot of people it's difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah. Man, it's been awesome.
Heck yeah.
Chatting.
I don't even know what we talked about, but I loved it. See, it
Yeah.
went by fast. How long is that? 4 hours?
An hour and a half.
Perfect.
How crazy is that? It feels like 20 minutes.
Yeah. Dude,
Cote.
thanks for coming down.
Man, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And I love your space.
Hang out.
This is so
All
sick.
right.
I'll come back again.
Perfect. We'll do some behind the scenes content after this.
Yes. Thank you, man.
Right on.
That was awesome.
Dude, of course. That was sick.